She stood on that grand stage, clutching a broken violin, its strings frayed, its bow worn thin. Laughter echoed from the audience, mocking the sight of a simple woman daring to perform in a hall meant for the elite. But the moment her bow touched the string, the laughter died. And with that single trembling note, she changed every life in that room, especially his. Welcome to Tales and Turns, where every story reminds us that greatness often hides in the most unexpected souls. Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart and stir the soul. And tell us, where are you watching from? We love seeing our audience from all around the world in the comments below. She was known in her town as the quiet woman with the violin. Every morning, before the world awoke, she would sit by her window and play soft melodies that drifted through the narrow streets. The children would sometimes stop to listen, captivated, though they never saw her face. Her name was Clara, and her life had been anything but kind. Widowed young, she worked as a cleaner in a local music school, scrubbing floors where others learned to chase their dreams. One evening, after finishing her shift, Clara lingered in the school auditorium. A grand charity concert was scheduled for the next day. On stage lay a broken violin, discarded by a famous musician who had deemed it unfit for art. Clara picked it up, brushing away the dust, and smiled sadly. "You're not broken," she whispered. "You just need someone to believe in you." She tucked the violin gently under her arm and began to play a tune she hadn't played in years. A lullaby her late husband had written for her. The sound was imperfect, the strings strained, but something in that music carried a raw, trembling beauty that filled the empty hall. Unbeknownst to her, a man had been listening from the shadows. Daniel Reed, the very conductor who had dismissed that violin earlier that day, stood frozen. He had spent years chasing perfection, sculpting flawless performances that earned applause but never touched hearts. Yet what he heard in that quiet moment was something his entire orchestra lacked: soul. When Clara stopped playing, Daniel stepped forward. "Who taught you to play like that?" he asked softly. She looked startled, clutching the violin tighter. "No one," she replied. "I just feel the music." The next morning, the concert hall buzzed with guests, dignitaries, musicians, critics, and the wealthy patrons of the arts. But just as rehearsals began, disaster struck. The star violinist, a prodigy from Vienna, fell ill. Panic rippled through the staff. Without her, the entire performance would collapse. That's when Daniel made a decision that stunned everyone. "We'll still have a violinist," he said quietly. "Clara will play." The room went silent, then erupted with disbelief. "The janitor," one musician scoffed. "She's not even trained?" Daniel ignored them. He simply turned to Clara, who stood trembling near the doorway, her old apron still on. "Would you play for us?" She wanted to refuse. Her hands shook, her voice trembled. "I can't, sir. I'm not ready for something like this." But Daniel saw something in her eyes, a deep ache wrapped in quiet courage. "You're more ready than you think," he said. So, before the largest audience she had ever seen, Clara walked onto that stage with the broken violin pressed to her chest. Whispers followed her every step. People laughed softly, assuming it was some act of pity. The orchestra waited impatiently. Daniel lifted his baton, and the hall fell silent. The first note quivered through the air like a fragile breath. Then another followed, strong and haunting. Within seconds, the mocking smiles faded. The sound wasn't perfect. It was alive. Every note carried the weight of her struggles, the tenderness of lost love, the quiet resilience of a soul that refused to be silenced. The broken violin sang, and the world listened. Even Daniel, standing at the podium, felt tears he hadn't shed in years trace down his face. As the final note lingered, the audience sat frozen. Then came a sound more powerful than applause: silence. A silence so deep, It felt sacred. And then, suddenly, the entire hall rose to its feet, the applause erupting like thunder. Clara stood motionless, tears in her eyes, clutching the violin as if it were her lifeline. Daniel approached her, his voice trembling. "You've reminded me what music truly is," he said. "It's not about perfection, it's about truth." In the days that followed, Clara's story spread far beyond that concert hall. Journalists called her the woman with the broken violin. She was invited to perform across the country, not for fame or money, but because her music carried something rare: authenticity. People who had forgotten how to feel came to hear her play. The same violin that was once thrown away now hung in a museum, its cracks preserved like scars of survival. As for Daniel, he changed too. He no longer chased flawless technique, but sought emotion, vulnerability, humanity in every performance. He credited his transformation to a woman who had nothing, but gave everything through her music. And Clara, though she accepted the recognition humbly, returned often to the quiet streets of her hometown, where children still gathered to listen at her window. She would smile softly, close her eyes, and let the music speak where words never could. Years later, when people asked her what she thought of that night, the night that changed everything, she would only say, "The violin wasn't broken. It was just waiting for someone to see its worth." And perhaps, in that truth, was a message for everyone. That no matter how worn or forgotten we feel, beauty still lives within us, waiting for the right moment, the right note, to be heard. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns for more stories that prove the smallest moments can hold the greatest meaning. Tell us in the comments, have you ever felt like something broken in your life turned out to be your greatest strength?